We all know that Hollywood has a history of trying to shoehorn in what are perceived to be it actors of the time into everything. They did it a little bit with Tom Holland, and now they're doing it with actors like Pedro Pascal. Typically, they go all in on these actors or actresses who have an oddly obsessive fan base on social media that likes to overhype the talents of those actors and the quality of the projects that they are in. And there's no greater example of that right now than Jenna Ortega. Let's discuss.
I watch so you don't have to.
All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
Before I begin today, I want to send a big shout out to all of my subscribers, old and new. Especially the ones who sent me some kind words over the past few days. You have no idea how much I appreciated that. Turns out, just days after praising a Marvel movie, I had a leak in my basement. Coincidence? I think not. What did we learn here? It never pays to praise Marvel for doing anything.
You didn't see that coming.
But I'm officially back and better than ever, and right now I'm going to be talking about Beetlejuice 2 officially moving forward. For those that don't know, Beetlejuice is one of my all-time favorite movies. In my opinion, to this day, it is still one of the most unique films ever made. It's a movie that I've seen so much that I can literally recite the dialogue word for word in every scene.
It's showtime.
Now, there's been talk for years about a sequel to Beetlejuice, and there was a time when I was excited about the possibility of that happening. And no, I'm not talking about the rumored Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian sequel that they once had planned. Yes, it's real, look it up, and I think I speak for everyone when I say I'm really glad that that didn't happen. But I did try to always keep an open mind about a sequel to Beetlejuice. I always said that if Michael Keaton and Tim Burton were coming back, I would give it a chance.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
However, at this point, we are 35 years removed from the release of the original. That is the literal definition of a way too late sequel. To me, with sequels, you have a 3 to 5 year window that you need to operate in. If in fact your intention is to capitalize on the success of the original. As a fan, of course this movie is on my radar. But I just don't know if general audiences are clamoring for a Beetlejuice sequel. To me, this reeks of being dumped on a streaming service, and I just don't want that for this franchise that I love. The original movie was always kind of a niche thing to me. People who love it, love it. But there's a lot of people who really don't have a relationship with this movie in the way that I do. Maybe they should, but again, this second movie is coming 35 years too late. So how much connectivity and buzz can we really expect from it?
That makes sense.
Regardless of all of this, the sequel is officially moving forward and has a 2024 release date. Most of the original cast is returning, including Michael Keaton, Winona Ryder, and Catherine O'Hara. Alec Baldwin appears to be left out, which is fine because after all, he might be feeling a bit rusty.
Normally he's a very, nice guy.
There's also announced new cast members, such as Justin Theroux and Monica Bellucci. And most recently, the legendary Willem Dafoe was added to the cast. And he is reportedly playing a law enforcement officer in the afterlife. I think it's a great idea to bring in some veteran actors to kind of legitimize this whole thing. I also think new blood is important also if your goal is to appeal to a new audience. Now, of course, you should use caution whenever you do this, and be careful not to belittle old, beloved characters as a way of building up the new ones like we've seen so many times before. But even with the risk of that happening, I wouldn't necessarily have a problem with them injecting some new blood into the franchise. Top Gun Maverick showed us that you can have your cake and eat it too in that situation. My issue is the actress they are choosing to do this with. Now let me be very clear. I do not hate Jenna Ortega. I just think she is overhyped and overused at this point. She was in the movie X last year, a movie that I praised unconditionally. But to me, she was kind of an afterthought in that movie. She didn't really stand out to me and make me say, oh my god, she's going to be the next big thing. And then she was in Scream 5 and Scream 6. And if I'm being honest, they didn't really give her the best material to work with in those films, because they are garbage, but even so, again, she really didn't stand out to me in her performance.
I don't get it.
I admittedly haven't seen Wednesday yet, I probably will at some point, but by the time that show came out, I was already of the opinion that I was tired of seeing her being placed in everything. And to be clear, it's not so much that she's getting work, it's that Hollywood is constantly trying to put her in all these established franchises. Because they know that simp culture has taken over, and for whatever reason, people are simping hard right now for Jenna Ortega.
You can act like a man! What's the matter with you?
And like everything else these days, the hype around her seems very manufactured and phony. I'm just failing to see at what point in her very short career that she separated herself from the pack and became this talent that studios must have. And I'm not talking about her potential. Every actor or actress has potential if they find themselves in the right part, in the right situation. A situation that enhances their talents and gives them an opportunity to show what they can do. An opportunity for them to show their range.
Look what I can do!
Now, does Jenna Ortega have that in her? Maybe. But as of right now, it looks like all she's doing is getting typecast into this generation's version of Winona Ryder or Christina Ricci. All the cute goth girl roles are just getting thrown at her at this point. Only she is nowhere near as memorable in these roles as the people that I just mentioned.
I myself am strange and unusual.
So I ask again, what is the appeal? The simps like her, but again, we need to stop making movies based around simp culture. Because that really doesn't help the rest of us who just want to go and watch a good movie with the right actors. Just like everything else coming out of modern Hollywood, this whole Jenna Ortega trend feels very forced. They desperately want her to be this star that I'm not entirely sure that she actually is yet.
Not quite ripe yet.
Wouldn't it benefit her career more to put her in roles that aren't connected to established franchises? Not to mention, if the quality of Beetlejuice 2 goes south, she will now be associated with the destruction of two beloved franchises, that being Scream and Beetlejuice. Now, of course, that's not her fault necessarily. Radio Silence deserves credit for ruining Scream's flawless reputation prior to their arrival, and if rumors of their departure are true, Scream will be better off without them.
Don't f with the original.
There are even rumors that Jenna Ortega will not return for Scream 7. Because everyone in Hollywood is throwing so many roles at her right now, she might be too busy. Oversaturation is a real thing. It can kill the appeal of something and even make people resent it. Comic book movies, I'm looking at you. This is just another example in the long line of examples of people jumping on a bandwagon. It doesn't seem like she's earning these roles as much as she's having roles tailor-made for her handed to her.
Put some effort into it!
And I just don't think she's established herself enough yet to get that kind of attention. And that's just not appealing to me at all, especially when it comes at the cost of a franchise that I love. At some point, Hollywood stopped being creative and stopped thinking outside the box, and that's why we are getting a sequel to a movie that not a lot of people asked for, with a lead that is possibly the most predictable casting decision I've heard in recent memory.
You're pathetically predictable.
The only thing that might have been more predictable is having Johnny Depp involved with this movie, especially with his recent habit of making forgettable films with Tim Burton over the past 10 years. Sometimes I just wish Hollywood would leave well enough alone and stop trying to dip into the past and come up with something fresh. You know, like the original Beetlejuice did back in 1988. Instead, they just rinse and repeat, recycle, recycle, recycle. And why? Because that's what the simps and the sheeple want. They don't want originality, they want familiarity. And that's a big reason why we can't get a lot of quality content anymore. Because overall, there's not enough people demanding it, and that's a real problem and something that needs to change.
Y'all be cool. Right on.